Which of the eliminated NFL playoff teams has the brightest future? Welcome, football fans. It's Mitch here, back with another BR Live. And in this live, I'm ranking the eliminated NFL teams, but not from this season, for the future. Because I know it can be frustrating. You'll walk into the playoffs with so much expectation, with so much hope. And all of a sudden, you are punched right in the face and you're knocked back into reality. So, in this video, we're going to rank from the brightest to the dullest. Because producer Caitlin wants me to end with a Steelers rant. I think that's what she wants. So, everyone knows the Steelers are the worst team. Everyone knows that Mike Tomlin should be fired. So wait for that. We're going to talk about that at the end. Yes, I just left you a teaser and a spoiler right at the start of the video. I do not care. We're going to kick off the list with the brightest future of the eliminated teams. And that is the Chargers. That's right. I have the Chargers at number 1. This is debatable, guys. You could argue that the Chargers, maybe a couple of other teams, depending on your perspective of the quarterback position, could be as the brightest future of the eliminated teams. But the reason I have the Chargers is because Justin Herbert, out of all the quarterbacks on this list, has been the most consistently best quarterback in football in terms of this list. Okay, so Herbert has had the highest, most consistent level of play. You combine that now with a little bit of structure from his head coach, Jim Harbaugh. And Harbaugh immediately turned around the culture, turned around the program of the Chargers. He brought stability to the Chargers. And yes, they still choked like the Chargers do every single playoffs. But at the very same time, they still have Herbert and they have Harbaugh. But the thing I also love about the Chargers, they have 2 bookend tackles on their offensive line that are young, that will be there for a while. They have Ladd McConkey, the Gladiator. He's ready to rock for the future. They need another receiver. They maybe need to fix their interior line. Maybe they need a running back. Defensively, they have some pieces in the secondary. Some leadership with Derwin James. I like Henley at linebacker. I like some of their young corners that they drafted. And that's another thing. Harbaugh has an edge in these drafts because he spent so long at Michigan recruiting these players, man. So future is bright with the Chargers. It's just charging up right now. So that's why they're at number 1. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the chat, homies. We got Big Honey in the chat. We got Jay Daniel in the chat. We got Jeremy in the chat. Packers got the best future. I disagree, sir. We'll get to why in a little bit. Cody says not even close, the Vikings. So that's a good segue. Thank you for that, sir. At number 2, for the brightest of the futures, I have the Minnesota Skol Vikings. JJ to JJ. That's all that needs to be said. But let's break it down. Sam Darnold, you disgust me. I'm sorry. I can't watch you play another game. That was so bad. The Rams game was so bad. I think the Lions game was worse. I don't know, man. He took 9 sacks. He probably could have avoided like 6 of them, if I'm being honest. So the hope for the Vikings is that J.J. McCarthy takes what Sam Darnold did and elevates it. Now, obviously, he'll be a rookie next year. We've never seen him actually play in the NFL. But I would argue with the Vikings that they could make a strong argument that they could put any quarterback behind center after what they did with Sam Darnold, making him one of the 10 best quarterbacks from this past season, production-wise, one of the 5 best maybe, production-wise, and making him relevant this year and signing him for no money. So they could argue, even if JJ McCarthy doesn't work out, which I think he will to a certain degree, they could just pick up anybody and it would probably work with Addison, with Jefferson, with O'Neal, with Darisaw at left tackle, still in their primes, right? Kevin O'Connell, the great coach that he is from a play calling and a culture standpoint. Now, one of the things that I think hurts the Vikings is potentially losing Brian Flores. He's such a wizard defensively. He brings a toughness to this team. He brings a volatility to the nature of playing, the good offenses in the league. I would say, like, he brings that pressure. He brings the turnovers. He brings the negative plays to the defense with his scheme. So they'll definitely miss him. But O'Connell has shown that he can hire a good defensive coordinator. He has recognition of that. They've done a good job with their assistant coaches. I think their new general manager, as of late, has done a good job building this team and finding talent to piece together on offense and defense. And they have plenty of youthful talent, especially on offense, that I feel very good about it. So O'Connell with JJ and JJ, that's the core of this team. That's why I'm confident moving forward with the Vikings. Now, we brought up the Packers. The Green Bay Packers are at number 3 for me for the brightest future. And it hurts me to say, but my love is fading for Jordan Love. I really did not think that Jordan Love played well all season. I didn't see it from him. I mean, he was inconsistent. He was sporadic. He was inaccurate. This guy had no rhythm. And really, when you think about it, did the Packers win a single game this year where Jordan Love was the guy that won them the game and not Josh Jacobs? Did they win a single game this season? Now, I know that Love had the huge hype train after beating and annihilating the Cowboys last year in the playoffs. But this season, he was injured. He was up and down. And they didn't beat a single good team. Like, in my opinion, if there is a team that's overrated entering next year, it might be the Packers. Christian Watson probably won't be back. They're going to have to make a move at receiver. And this is a reluctant franchise to spend money, which has me so discouraged. If I was more confident about the Packers going out in free agency and signing a corner, but Alexander might walk. If I was more confident about them going out and signing a pass rusher, their pass rush was pathetic. Pathetic against the Vikings a couple weeks ago. The only way they got pressure against the Eagles was through blitzing. Their run defense, great stuff. I think Hafley was a great hire. I think he showed a lot of promise. I thought that was the best, defense the Packers have played in the playoffs in terms of, like, against an elite unit of an offensive line and playmakers. I thought they did about as good as they could against the Eagles defensively. But Love is just so inconsistent. They don't have a running game. It feels like their drop back passing game is just not it. Reed is basically Walmart Deebo Samuel. Can't separate from man coverage. I think they need a lot of improvement, from a receiver perspective, from a offensive line, maybe tackle. But I don't think, it's mostly Love, guys. I just think Love is, kind of a little bit overrated right now. And I just feel like the Packers never spend money to improve their team. So they always have to draft extremely well. So the ability to jump from good to great, they need to spend some money in order for that to happen. I'm just not confident it's going to happen. And you look at this division, the Bears are only going to improve, you would think. The Lions are still going to be around even post Ben Johnson. And the Vikings are on the rise, I think. So, yeah, I like them at 3 because obviously they have LaFleur. They have Josh Jacobs in his prime. They've got a lot of youthful players, multiple on the offensive line like Zach Tom and Jordan Morgan. They've got defensively, Van Ness and Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper. They signed McKinney, which was excellent. They've got some playmakers, Bullard in the back end, some youth across both units. But I just feel like there's something a little bit missing with this team for me. And I thought they were going to get absolutely annihilated by the Eagles. It felt like they were never going to win that game. They were never a threat to win that game, but they kind of were able to stay in it because of the Eagles. So that's why they're at number 3 in the middle of the list. At number 4, a team that I want to be more positive about, but at the same time understand why they're at number 4. It's time to believe in the Broncos. Yes, the Broncos got destroyed by Josh Allen, the real MVP, and the Buffalo Bills. But I still believe in the Broncos. Why? Because Sean Payton is an excellent coach. I think Sean Payton is one of the best coaches of all time. Of all time. I think that the Broncos offensive line is top 5 in the NFL. And yeah, they got a couple guys that are aging. Quinn Miners is in his prime. You know, they've got a good cohesive unit there. I don't think they'll be losing anybody this offseason, if I'm not mistaken. They could improve at their skill positions, especially running back. You know, McLaughlin's a decent change of pace, but they don't really have a lead tailback that I like. Their tight end position could certainly get a lot better. You know, they could really use another receiver. Cortland Sutton is still a stud, but he's getting a little bit older. You know, they showed some flashes from Mims and Franklin and things like that, but those guys are more like secondary pieces and not the guy. And defensively, Vance Joseph might be able to stay around, which would be a huge W for the Broncos. I mean, he was really good this year. They led the league in pressure rate. They did some really creative things. I thought with somewhat a limited defense entering the season, there was a lot of unknowns, right? Like safeties. People really didn't know how good they were. Their secondary cornerbacks, you know, number 2 and number 3 corners were kind of suspect entering the year, but Vance Joseph seemed to get the most out of those players. Obviously, they got Pat Surtain, they got Nick Benito, they got Zach Allen, 3 in their prime core pieces to the defense that are going to make them a good defense for a while. So Broncos got a combination of Bo Nix, who I think is a good quarterback. Like, I think he'll be good. I don't know if he'll ever be elite or ever be great, but he's got a good decision-making. He's got a good arm. He can make the deep throws. He's got good enough accuracy and consistency in that standpoint, and he's very, very athletic and elusive. And I think when he continues to learn from Sean Payton, he's only going to get a little bit more refined. He was one of the older prospects, so his floor was a little bit higher than the others, but I think he's a very solid franchise quarterback from here on out. And I was kind of wrong about him, so I've got to say that. But yeah, I think the Broncos will be competitive. I don't know if they'll ever be like a Super Bowl team with the current team they've constructed, but we'll see what Sean Payton cooks up this offseason and what they do in free agency and the draft and things like that, because I think it's only up from here, really. It should be, at least, right? Okay, let's take a quick break before we get to the remainder of the list. Only 2 teams to go. Dan says, keep in mind, the Packers go 9-7 with Love and 2-0 with Willis. Yes. That's a good point. I don't know what you're trying to say exactly. If Willis is better than Love, if Love is not that good, I don't know what you're trying to say, but that's a fair point. I think LaFleur gives this team a floor. And as I've said before, the coach provides the floor of the team. The quarterback provides the ceiling. This is why I'm excited about my Patriots, because I thought Gerard Mayo, that floor was so, I couldn't even see it. I couldn't even see the floor, right? But with Mike Vrabel, we got a solid floor. We got Drake May. That ceiling's going to be high, okay? I already went to that. Willis, though, good backup find. I will give the Packers credit for that. Big Honey says, I'd argue the Broncos have the best future. Please make the argument. That's why we're here. Says, so you're telling me the Broncos have the worst future of all the play? No, we've got 2 more teams to go, Big Honey. Relax. Putting a cap on a rookie QB, he won't ever be elite. Led all rookies to touchdown passing yards. He also had the best situation. Best coach, best O-line, number 1 receiver, best defense. Keep that in mind. I'm just saying I've seen it before with Mac Jones, okay, up close and personal. His best season was as a rookie, and he actually, guess what, got annihilated by the Bills in the wildcard round. Just saying. So I've seen it before. that being said, I have more faith due to Bo has physical skill that I think can provide, a little bit more of a floor to his game. And I don't think Sean Payton will mess him around like Belichick did with Mac Jones. But I'm just saying, like, some rookies enter the league with a higher floor. Drake May was thought of as a young developmental player because he was younger. Jaden Daniels was thought of as somewhere in the middle. And Caleb was kind of thought of as a little bit of a project because he had a lot of things that he needed to fix, but he also had a lot of high-end ability. Bo Nix was kind of thought of as that guy that if you're going to pick him in the first round, you're thinking, okay, he's going to be good right away. We can put him in our system. He's a smart guy. I'm just saying, I'm throwing that out there as part of the argument. I think the bigger problem for the Broncos is they've got to deal with the Chiefs and the Chargers in their own division. And then with Tom Brady building up the Raiders, that's going to be a competitive division. Okay. So that's what I would be worried about. Like, the consistency of the Broncos, I think, is going to be a little bit less because of the division, the competition, the AFC. So if I only believe that Bo Nix will be the 15th best quarterback in football for the next 5 years on average, which is probably what I believe, somewhere around there, I would say, like, that's probably going to lead to some playoff appearances, but also some playoff misses, And someone says they had one of the worst receiver rooms. But if you watch them play, though, look at how many screens they throw, swing passes they throw. Wide receiver talent does not matter when you throw swing passes and screens. In fact, using Marvin Mims in that matter is pretty successful. So, and, when you have time, you can make average receivers a little bit better. Bronco Danny says, nobody worries about Herbert. He's overrated. He had a terrible playoff game. I will say that. But he needs some help. If you're only throwing to one receiver and he's a rookie and everyone else sucks, you need a little bit of help. I would actually argue the Broncos receiver room is probably better than the Chargers by a pretty long margin. Vikings in a tough spot with Sam. Great O-line and receivers. I think Sam will be gone. I think JJ McCarthy will be the guy moving forward. I think that's why they picked him. Darnold will go somewhere that needs a quarterback. I think he deserves, obviously, a starting position. It's just tough because he just puked on himself 2 games in a row. So it's really going to hurt his bag. But overall, I think he's probably going to go. Could he go to the Raiders or the Jets or the Giants? Or could he go somewhere like that? I don't know. Those are just teams that popped up potentially. Coach Lacter says, where do the Cowboys lie? Well, the Cowboys did not make the playoffs, unfortunately. I don't know if you know that, but the Cowboys did not make the playoffs. The Cowboys will be a good team. It depends on who they draft. But with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons, they'll be relevant. It's a matter of what will the coach bring? How will that spark the franchise? So, questions to be answered in Dallas. 20 effing years. Says Harbaugh and the Chargers need more offensive weapons. I agree. I still think they could improve their defensive skill as well. Claw says Steelers keep Fields the whole season. Oh my goodness. We'll get to that. At number 5, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Fire the cannons for Baker Mayfield because I'm not sure this is not the best Baker Mayfield we will ever see. Now, I love Baker. Great leader, great personality, great for football when he's playing well. But when you think about the Bucs, Baker's coming off the best season of his career. He might be in his prime and his peak right now, so maybe he has one more season of this level of play. That's fair to suggest, especially if he keeps Liam Cohen and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who could return. But that being said, is he ever going to play better than he did this year? It's hard for me to imagine. I mean, he played really, really well this year, and we've never seen him play at this level previously. He has a great left tackle in Tristan Wirfs, but you look at the Bucs, and I'm not a huge Todd Bowles guy. I honestly think I would rather have Liam Cohen stay and Todd Bowles go, because Todd Bowles' defense, again, let them down in a big game. He wasn't very good managing the clock in certain games like the Atlanta game, make some suspect in-game decisions. I think as a defensive coach, he's not exactly the best in terms of leading the whole team. I mean, this is a guy that, he had 8-9 record with Tom Brady. I know they kind of let the one game go at the end, but I think that, honestly, I'm just not that confident about Bowles as their coach long-term. I'm much more confident about Sean Payton. I'm much more confident about Jim Harbaugh. I'm much more confident about Kevin O'Connell. I'm much more confident about Matt LaFleur. Todd Bowles, Baker Mayfield, I like him. He's in his prime right now. I'm confident in Baker. He was a top 6 quarterback in the NFL this year. They've got some nice pieces on the O-line. Of course, Tristan Wirfs, arguably the best tackle in the league. Graham Barton, a rookie center. You know, Bucky Irving, a young running back. But Mike Evans is getting older. Eventually, he's not going to catch 1,000 yards. Chris Godwin's a free agent coming off an injury. Defensively, Levante David is old. You know, like Jamel Dean's getting a little bit older. I like Kalijah Cansey. I like McCollum. I like some of these pieces. I think they even benefit from a scheme change a little bit because Vita Vea, good player. I think some of the core pieces and core leadership pieces are getting old. And I feel like Todd Bowles doesn't inspire a lot of confidence, especially with the Panthers a little bit on the rise. You know, the Falcons got a new fresh quarterback. We'll see how that goes. The Saints are like in purgatory. Don't want to talk about them, but I guess the division is still theirs to lose. But honestly, I'm just kind of thinking about the ceiling here, and I just don't see that high of a ceiling right now. I don't know. They might have to have a bad year before it goes up again, if you know what I mean. Like, I think they're kind of stuck right now at like wild card round stage with Tampa Bay. That's kind of how I feel about them. And I love the Bucs. Like, I'm a fan of the Bucs. Like, they're one of my favorite teams to watch. Obviously, I was rooting for them heavy when Brady was there. There's still plenty of the players there. Like, this is not hate at all. I like the Bucs. This is actually inspired by me wanting them to be great. I think they're kind of stuck. So that's how I view the Bucs. This list is a joke, says Big Al 41. I know a Big Al, but you're not him. I know a Big Al, but you're not him. Thank you for saying my list is a joke. I hope you find it funny. Coach Laxer says, Bucs love Baker, but D is old, need cornerbacks and better linebackers. Well, yeah, we'll see how much longer Levante David lasts. I think the pass coverage is more of a scheme problem because I honestly don't think McCollum and Dean are all that bad. They got injured in the game, but yeah, they need pass rushers too. Just because, says Chargers, let their 1, 2, 3 receivers go, they'll recruit well for them. I do agree. I think they're going to go after a receiver. Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, somebody. They're going to go after a receiver. Steven says, stacked at the O-line, stacked at running back, stacked at receiver, and Baker killing it. No, the offense was awesome this year. But I guess my question is, like, are they going to repeat that? If Liam Cohen and this is also my fear, if Liam Cohen leaves, are they in trouble? Like, because to me, I think they're in trouble if Liam Cohen leaves. Who's the offensive coordinator? How's the offense going to be ran? Is it going to be with the same production? So, because the defense was bad. The defense was bad. And Wright says, is this dude wearing flavored contact lenses? No, my eyes are just that beautiful. Thank you. Continuing. Claw says, Steelers keep Fields the whole season, have a better record, and still in the playoffs. Okay. Hold on a second. We'll end with this. The dullest future in the NFL of all the playoff teams, and it's not even close, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers suck. Okay. Why do we have to continue to watch the Pittsburgh Steelers on Wild Card Weekend put up performances like we witnessed against the Baltimore Ravens? Guys, I don't want to sit through that anymore. I really don't want to sit through that anymore. I'm done with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Please get them out of here. Okay, let's think about it. They keep changing their offensive coordinator. They blame everything on Matt Canada. Before that, they blamed everything on Ben Roethlisberger. He's old. He can't move. All he wants to do is play in the gun. Matt Canada can't call a play. He calls too many trick plays. And they keep blaming it. They keep drafting diva receivers. That's another thing. That's a problem. Can we stop? The offensive line is still not very good. Their tackles are young, promising, but haven't lived up to the hype yet. I like McCormick and some of the young pieces in the interior. Sayamalu's getting a little older, though, right? And that's a big problem. Their defense is getting very old. Cam Hayward, TJ Watt's getting a little past his prime. If the playoffs were any indication, Alex Highsmith's getting a little closer to the 30 mark, right? They signed Pat Queen to a huge contract. Minka hasn't played as well in the last year or so. The secondary still has problems, outside of Joey Porter, who's more of a 2 than a 1. The defensive scheme is bad, like basic. Terrell Austin needs to go. I just feel like this team has a ceiling. They get to the wild card and they lose every single year. Or they finish 9-8 and just miss the playoffs. Like, at a certain point, the Pittsburgh Steelers need to realize when time is time, when change is needed. Like Mike Tomlin, great coach, inspires his players, great underdog coach. Great to the gambling community. But he hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. He lost to Blake Bortles in the playoffs. He's gotten embarrassed. I mean, look at the first halves, guys. Look at the first halves. They don't even score a point in the first half of these playoff games. They give up multiple touchdowns every single playoffs. They're down by multiple touchdowns every single halftime of every single playoff game. This team is a joke in the playoffs. Mahomes laughs at them. Josh Allen runs them over. Derrick Henry stiff arms them. Like, the Steelers suck. I'm sorry. They're not good. They lost 4 games. They were one of the worst teams in the league at the end of this season. One of the worst teams in the league. They lost 4 games in a row. And then they lost 5 games in a row. The defense got shredded. This is Mike Tomlin's defense. This is a steel curtain. They allowed 500 yards. And the Ravens weren't even trying. Like, what is the philosophy of going 9-8 or 10-7 or 11-6 every year when you know you're not going to win a playoff game? They need a quarterback. Russell Wilson, not it. Washed. He's not unlimited. He's actually, quite frankly, pretty limited. Justin Fields, are you kidding me, guys? Justin Fields, look at his record. Let me look it up for a second. I don't have the stat in front of my face. Let me look up his record. Justin Fields. He is nope. I gave him too much credit. I was going to say 17. 14-30. Guys, come on. If you want a top 5 pick, you put Justin Fields in there. Maybe that's the plan. He can't even throw the ball. 20 effing years says, I'll say this as a Steelers fan, the philosophy must change. You can't cover up mediocre offense, expect your defense to be on the field majority of the game. I agree with you, sir. But the thing is, your defense didn't even play to an elite level. That was what was the hope against the Ravens, right? Like, we're going to shut them down. We play Lamar well. We're going to contain Lamar. We're going to stop Derrick Henry. And we'll win 17-14, 20-17. We'll keep this game close. And they're in a division with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. You think the Bengals are ever going to have a defense this bad ever again? No. Good luck. If the Browns didn't have one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen, they probably would have been better than the Steelers too. Like, the Steelers are in purgatory, man. They're in QB purgatory. They're stuck at mid. They need to go somewhere, and the only place to go is down before they go up. Trust me. My main complaint with this list, though, is that the Patriots are not number one. I think there is an error here. It should say Patriots at number one, not Chargers. And Wright says, so what do you do? Trade for somebody who missed on Pickett. I don't know what you mean by that, but or who do you want to trade for? I think they need to reset. New era. Tomlin gone. Draft a quarterback. Get a top 10 pick. Have a bad season. Trade whoever you need to. Cam Hayward, whatever. Reset. Trade George Pickens. Have a bad season. Reset. Get a top 10 pick. Try to go for a young, promising quarterback. That's what I would do. One season of whoever you may want. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. Bridge quarterback. Kirk Cousins. Aaron Rodgers. 1 year. Bridge it. Burn it down. Build it back up. It's a pipe dream. I know. The Steelers have too much pride. That's their problem. It's kind of like the Cowboys. The Cowboys would rather go 9-8 every year than pick first in the draft and reset. Trade up for Sanders, says Coach Laxer. Just because, says Chargers have at least $76 million in cap space this year. Huge recruiting year ahead. I agree. Chargers, that's why they're number one. They've got Herbert, Harbaugh, and they've got cap space. They've got draft picks. And I think they've got enough young pieces around on the offense and defense. Claw says I'm nuts. I know. Thank you. What else we got? Bengals should have been there. If the Bengals were in the playoffs, that would have been great. At least we would have had 2 good games in the playoffs instead of 1. But imagine the Bengals and the Ravens. That would have been fantastic. All right, guys. I'm going to end it there so I don't end up going too long. Appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm Mitch. Follow me on BR Live. This week, we had 2 already. There'll be a 3rd. So make sure to follow me. And also subscribe on YouTube, The Bottom Line View, where I cover all 32 NFL teams. Appreciate it. Peace.